These Niagara Mist kits from Vineco are fantastic if you like any kind of wine coolers. The kit that I'm going to be making here today is a white pear. And there's not really a whole lot that you need to do if you've already been making any kind of wines at all at home. The same supplies do apply for these kits as well. Now I can't take any credit for this Bentonite mixing method, but what a beauty. Silky smooth every time and no clumpage, and it takes a couple of seconds. Thank you, James Lowe. Now I always like to take and put a little bit of RO water into my mix of bentonite. I don't know, I just feel better about the juice going into something a little more diluted. Now whether or not you need to take and rinse out this bag, I guess that's up to the experts. I'm no wine expert or cooler making expert, but I just think that that is the flavor goodness that's going to be adding flavor to my finished cooler or my finished wine, so I'm going to rinse it out and put it in there. After that, you can kind of see the lip on the pail. That's kind of my topping up or my 6-gallon mark, which I know is going to fit in my carboy well. I'll typically kind of stir it in between just to make sure that everything is mixed up as I go. This one kind of gets a little foamy. I'm not sure what's going on there or why it's doing that. Maybe I just stirred it a little bit too vigorous. I'm not sure. Once I've got my top up to the line, I make sure it gets one final good stir, and I'll end up taking a hydrometer reading. This is going to let us know what our alcohol percentage is once the fermentation is complete. Nothing fancy for yeast in this one. It's just your standard EC 1018. And that's it. That gets our primary going. I've got a airlock there full of sanitizer. Chuck that on a heated tile floor and let it go. So after 14 days on this one, and now this is the first time this ever happened to me, but I took my hydrometer reading, and according to the directions of this kit, the fermentation hasn't yet finished. So according to the kit, you just leave it for another 48 hours, and that did the trick. After another 48 hours, I just took the hydrometer reading, and you can see that it's dropped. It's dropped in value at this point, and so according to the kit instructions, the fermentation is complete. Now all I need to do is get this thing racked off of the sediment cake, and this one I ended up getting just about everything off with no sediment in there. We're also going to be adding the sorbate and sulfate to stabilize this wine. And you can stir this out and stir it out like crazy to get the wine degassed or get the cooler degassed. But for curiosity's sake in this one, I'm using a vacuum sealer just to see how that works. It doesn't take long after the vacuum sealer is working and you can see the CO2 all come out of the liquid. Now I do repeat this process several times to get all that gas out, but I'm just going to show you one vacuum seal cycle and just kind of what that looks like. Even after the second time of running a vacuum seal cycle, almost nothing comes out already, so it's amazing how quickly and effective that is. I'll also spin up the liquid here, and this is the part 1 of our Kieselgel and Hydrometer clearing. After that, we're just going to let it sit for 24 hours for the next day before our Hydrometer goes in. We're also going to be adding our sweetener in this one, or back sweetening it at this point in time. Now that the wine is stable, we don't have to worry about fermentation kicking off again. So first the sweetener is going to go in. I'm going to give that a good stir, and you can see how much stuff is kind of on the bottom already. That's just settling out naturally before I add my Hydrometer. Now what's kind of cool when you put the stuff in is if you have it spun up like this, you can kind of see at the top, it starts to get a little hazy. How quickly that actually just works. It's pretty amazing stuff. It's definitely a great way to clear wine kits, and I can tell why these kits always have it in there. Once we've left that for 5 days, it's a good idea to give the carboy a quick twist, and that's for anything that has settled from that sediment process on the side of the glass. That'll drop it all down to your wine cake. On day 26, it's polish and racking time. You wouldn't have to do this step, I don't think, if you didn't want to. I do like to add the Camden tablets because I don't know how long this is going to sit. So if you're sitting a bunch of different wines inside of a wine cellar or inside of your wine storage, it's just going to keep your wines fresher for longer. I did try something different with this one too. I put the Camden tablets at the bottom of the carboy and mixed it in just by the siphon, and I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. I think that might be my method going forward. Now, after that sat for a couple of days, we can see we got a nice, totally crystal clear wine here. That one turned out really, really well. As far as clarity goes, I'm very happy with that. I'm going to get everything set up, and this is for bottling day. And I've actually got 2 kits that I'm going to bottle today. And the other one happens in a different wine kit that's also listed on the channel. If you're curious about that, you can see that one there as well. That's a Moscato Rosé. Now, this is totally doable by yourself as long as you're well organized and you have everything kind of placed out. You see, there's nothing really crazy for having to run around and do it. It is, of course, nice if the life boss happens to be home, and she was today to give me a hand with this. And what she typically ends up doing is just handing me empty bottles and taking the full bottles away and loosely putting the caps onto the counter so that when we want to shrink seal those things with the heat, that is super easy to do. Now keep in mind as well, after those shrink caps have gone on, to sit those things on the counter and leave them like that for a couple of days. And this is just to make sure that those corks get a chance to really seat in there properly. We don't want any leakers going into our wine cellar. And if anything's going to blow, it's going to blow on the counter. And time for the taste. Here's what she looks like. Ooh, that smells very fruity. Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure it'll taste better with age, but it doesn't really need anything. This is drinkable directly out of that carboy. Just a tiny little bit of tartness, but the pear comes through. It's a good wine. This probably won't take very long for the life boss to destroy this carboy full. She's off to the side. She'll never show up in a video. But rest assured, she'll drink this the second I turn the camera off. Till next time, take care.